unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encounter Cast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncounterCast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
What's up? Welcome to Final Encounter Cast. Thanks for joining us. Twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio starting at 1 p.m. Glad to have you along. FinalEncounterCast.com is the website. You can go there and check out the 76 episodes that have preceded this one.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot of episodes. And,
are we going to have a special 100th one?
I don't know. I guess so.
What do we do for 100 episodes of LBR?
Get other people to do it for us?
That's right. We had the day off. We just didn't show up. That's what we did. Yeah, I like that. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us again. Twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. Glad to have you along. If you're listening to us live, thanks for being here. If you're listening on the podcast, join us at 1 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv. You can call the show. Now, this is going to be really interesting because I am the only one in the studio this week.
What?
I know, right?
No way.
It's all lonely and empty. I go to these wide shots, and it's just me. There's no one in here with me. It's sad. They're the saddest wide shots ever in anything. I've got all of the technology around me, though. The technology is my friends.
Instead of calling them wide shots, can we rename them to Chris shots? Because he's so wide.
But
there's I'm not in those shots, so no.
Thank you, Bizarro Robbie. Now, I have a question. So, obviously, you have the eye patch, and you've got a little bit of facial hair going on. Like, you absolutely need to have like the Van Dyke goatee. Like, if you're gonna have the eye patch, you need to have the goatee that goes along with it to truly become Bizarro Robbie.
I'll work on it, but hopefully the eye patch is only for a few more days.
By the way, Bizarro Robbie is a white mage, so I hope that you're going to become healing to Tuesdays. Come on,
you
now.
know what Robbie's favorite letter is?
What's that?
R. I thought you were going to say I, and I was going to be really mad.
actually, that would have been really funny.
That was pretty stupid. So I mean it's exactly what I would expect.
Big boss vibe.
Really? Really? He gives off the big boss vibe, does he? I don't think he does.
Now you're just making a Nero jealous.
All eye patches give me that because I like big boss.
Okay. I had no idea. Anyway, thanks for joining us. By the way, we are today on Zoom, which is why I'm here alone in the saddest wide shots ever in the history of this show.
I like that you still have like all our microphones set up as if we were there.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of how you leave them when you leave, which, by the way, leads me to the first point of conversation. You guys need to clean up after yourselves a little bit better when you leave this studio. Just saying. There's a specific way that things go back. And you know, I find dishes in weird places. I found a cup today near Robbie's mic position where I was like, oh, well, clearly I wouldn't have known about that. So that's nice. I don't know how long that's been there, but anyway, yeah. So we are, of course, over Zoom today because there are boat races happening right outside the studio, and with all of the mics on, you can definitely hear them. You can't really actually hear them with just my microphone on. But basically what it is, hydroplane boat races, if you've never seen them, what you do is you basically take a 300-pound fiberglass frame and strap a jet engine onto it and hurtle it down a body of water at about 215 miles an hour.
And hope it explodes.
Well, if you're driving it, you hope that it doesn't explode. But I think if you're watching it, you secretly kind of do hope that it explodes. So if there is a gigantic explosion in the background, I'm going to leave and see if I can see any of the viscera.
Take pics, please.
Fine. I'll grab the GoPro. I don't give a shit. But anyway, we're glad to have you along here today, even if it is in a slightly different capacity. But being that I am the only one in studio, it means that I have to engineer everything, literally everything that's going on today. So I get
Drops better be on point.
I get no help with calls.
Son of a bitch!
I get no helps with drops. It's all on me today. And in fact, Kooky waking up even a little bit late today. So literally, like, I've got no one screening calls. So if you ever wanted to try to get one over on this show, today would probably be a good day to try to do that, because I'm going to be running calls. But if you'd like to give the show a call, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764 is how you can do that. Just to mention, if you are calling on a phone, after a while, of course, it'll go to either, this number is busy, or it'll go to some kind of answering service. I don't know what the fuck actually happens, but keep trying, because it's just me and I have to notice that you're calling. So appreciate the patience today. But we've got a lot to talk about, including, finally, we're going to talk about Final Fantasy 15. I mean, it's something that we've talked about, in various capacities on the show, but I don't think that we've ever taken an entire episode to actually talk about Final Fantasy 15. An interesting statistic that we're going to focus on for that discussion. That's going to be coming up here today on Final Encountercast. So if you want to call in and talk about 15 and what you think about it, how you feel about it, then line up your calls. Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. I have a feeling that Nika's going to be on an awful lot of defense today.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
So the Nika White Knight army needs to kind of come out and maybe defend the game a little bit, because we may.
I will defend the shit out of this game.
Okay, all right. Well, you better be prepared to.
So I'm not going to be I'm not going to be like riding its butt, but
she's definitely going to be riding
really.
its butt.
Why would today be any different?
I know how to. Remember, we all know how to criticize things that we love, and I can do that with this game too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that I've ever heard you do it. So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a big deal.
But did you see how cute Prompto looks?
Oh my God! See, here it is. Here it is.
So, who's wearing pants?
Anyway, we're going to be talking about. No, yeah. What do you want? What do you?
I want to know who's wearing pants.
What are you trying to?
Doing the show without pants.
I'm sorry. Hang on. What are you trying to say? I can't hear you back from 1992 Smashing Pumpkins video. What are you trying to say? That's what your fucking camera looks like. Whatever fucking camera you have, you look like Billy Corgan is going to come out and you're going to just pop on a cello or something. Like, what the fuck are you?
I'll lean back at. The issue is my camera like spitting bloom into my face, or my monitor.
Yeah, that's the issue. It's not how dorky you look with the blue hair.
Yeah,
that's not doing you any favors. Just saying. Anyway, if you want to talk about Final Fantasy 15, that's coming up today on Final Encountercast. But before we get into the news, I just want to remind everyone real quick that we are supported by your generous support over at patreon.com/Limit Break Radio. If you don't know the history behind the show, we started as a Final Fantasy 14 show that only talked about Final Fantasy 14. We still talk about it, even though apparently none of us play that game anymore.
Untrue.
But anyway, yeah, you can if you're interested. If you've never caught that show, you can find more info about it over at limitbreakradio.com. But that's how this crew originally assembled. That's
untrue. We were originally FF11.
Well,
probably.
I mean, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of it, but that's really how this show came to be. It was through the support of the listeners of Limit Break Radio. So So if you'd like to join in on that support, you can do that over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio. We are going to eventually get Patreon rewards for Final Encountercast. So if you are maybe only a listener of Final Encountercast, you can have something there that you can get instead of Limit Break Radio keychains. But anyway, if you want to support the show, again, patreon.com/limitbreakradio. And then it was through the efforts of this show that gave us opportunities to go do Checkpoint Radio. And we did our first live broadcast of Checkpoint Radio last week over at twitch.tv/checkpointradio. And we encourage you to go follow that Twitch channel. And that was exciting. That was a lot of fun to do, actually. I was really sad to find out after we had stopped streaming that we had apparently set our channel to not archive our streams.
What?
So that one's gone. Hope you caught it, because you'll never be able to see it again.
Digital exclusivity, bitches.
Exactly. But if you want to catch future broadcasts of Checkpoint Radio Live, those are going down on Wednesday. That's over at twitch.tv/Checkpoint Radio. We appreciate everyone who showed up for that. That was a lot of fun, and it was really cool to be able to do that. I think it actually went really, really super well. So yeah, we're excited to be able to move forward with that. Well, of course, the stream will get more complex. We'll have game streaming and a whole bunch of other stuff as the channel and the show continues to grow. But we are relying on your support over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio to be able to do all three projects. Obviously, there are plans and irons in the fire for things down the road for Checkpoint Radio, including a piece that I got to work on thanks to Joe. Joe, you talked to your brother Luke, and I got to produce up this very cool piece that we're calling Profile of the Pros. I don't know, if we'll ever get to play it on the show. We may play the demo, I don't know, someday here on Final Encountercast. But it was a lot of fun putting that together, and I really hope that that's a campaign that ends up moving forward.
Maybe we could play it on like the Twitch stream or something like that as a little exclusive.
I mean, like, I wouldn't object to playing it on the show, except that we're right now, being that it's an active pitch for a campaign. I don't want that. I don't want to make it public yet. So, when we kind of decide what the full arc of that campaign is, maybe we'll end up playing it on the show. But something that I think is really cool. It sounded really cool, and I'm excited to hopefully be moving forward with that. So. Of course, again, lots of irons in the fire when it comes to stuff between Final Encountercast, Limit Break Radio, and Checkpoint Radio. So appreciate all of the existing support that we already get from you guys. But I did notice that we were just below the 1,600 mark. I'd love to be able to push that up to what was the point that we said that we were doing Final Encountercast weekly? That was at 2. That was at 2.
Yeah, 2,000.
2,000.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to get back to at least 2,000 to be able to squarely fund this show. So we would love to see your support and your help. Again, that's over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio. All right, let's check out what's going on in the news.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
Alrighty guys, Gamescom attendees were treated to a teaser trailer of Shenmue 3, and one of the immediate responses questioned why the characters looked so awful. Stiff facial animations and lifeless eyes only scratched the surface of the issues that Shenmue 3 brought upon us. However, game director Yu Suzuki has assured fans that the character models used for the teaser are, quote, largely temporary.
I would hope so.
That's what Andromeda was kind of saying too. That didn't happen. So
this game is dog shit. Like, why would you show off that trailer? Seriously, what the fuck was going on with that trailer? That was terrible.
That was one of those situations where I would have rather seen nothing. That did not look good.
Well, those Andromeda animators needed a job after the whole Mass Effect.
Oh, man. But the thing is at least Andromeda had face animations. Like, there was almost no movement. I had to wait for a scene with dialogue that showed a character moving their lips to confirm, like, oh, there is facial animation. They did program in that ability. That's not just the model.
Maybe there's some lore reason surrounding like Botox being on sale or something. We don't know.
Did they make this in Gary's mod? Like, what the fuck is actually? They received so much fucking money, and they've got Sony like to come in and save their ass, and this is what they show off. Like, don't show a character. Show Shenmue at the end. Show the rest in the rest of it landscapes. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah, like, one dude looks like freaking Sid from Final Fantasy XI with lockjaw going on, like,
oh my god, it's embarrassing.
It's so weird if you actually think about it too, because even just with lumping Andromeda in there's kind of been a rash of games that have came out, and you're just looking at them like, really, especially considering their pedigree. I mean, look at the whole stuff behind Capcom and Marvel Infinite.
Dude, it really is unfortunate when you see like this kind of because indie games are and specifically Kickstarter games have now developed a reputation of it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to be shit. It's almost a surprise when a Kickstarted or crowdfunded game is not a total pile of fucking garbage at this point. And that's like Shenmue 3, that should have the pedigree, that should have the ability, that actually does have the support of a major game studio like Sony. They should not be presenting something like this. It makes Kickstarted games just look bad.
Oh my gosh, what if that's the whole point? What if Sony's like, we need to do something about these Kickstarted games. Let's give them more of a bad reputation.
This is why they didn't talk about indie games at E3. They're like, those are so 2015.
Yeah, they're conspiracy bullshit.
Yeah, in my opinion, Shenmue 3 should not be considered a Kickstarted or an indie game because it has Sony behind it. So
yeah, but the fact that it was on Kickstarter, it shattered records on Kickstarter. I mean, like, you can't ignore that. You can't discount that.
Also, remember what Sony said after that successful Kickstarter. Oh, well, this was just that we could gauge the interest of it.
Yeah, bullshit.
Like, that is not what Kickstarter was ever meant for. And the fact that Kickstarter as a platform didn't get more involved with that is really surprising. But yeah, I still don't understand, if you've got that kind of money, that kind of development power, that kind of pedigree, why you would even show this off. It's embarrassing.
The Super NES Classic pre-orders were a debacle, surprising absolutely nobody. First put pre-orders live were Best Buy and Amazon, who did so in the middle of the night and sold out promptly anyway. Throughout the day, pretty much every website that put them up had difficulty managing traffic and sold out almost immediately. Don't worry, though, there's about 1 million still available on eBay if you're willing to pay like $1,000.
It's about accurate, yeah.
So
I really hate Nintendo for all of this.
Yeah, that's correct.
It really is like Nintendo does this on purpose. I'm totally convinced.
You remember when they said that this time it would be better? Can anyone point out any evidence, anecdotally or not, on why this was better?
Sorry,
yes.
not sorry.
No.
Because it's a Super Nintendo and not a Nintendo.
Thank you, asshole.
You're welcome.
Wow, he's way better at drops than you are.
I really am.
After 2 drops?
No, actually there were 4. Thank you. Yeah.
But they've been good ones.
Exactly. They were all relevant.
I mean, but were they that funny?
Suck failure, freaks.
Yeah. They were.
Remember who you learned this from. Remember who Remember who programmed most of these drops.
Okay, you're right. You're such a better dropper than I am that you can just handle drop duties from now on.
Aw, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
I'm impressed. Great job, Daddy Nate. You are now drop master.
They're player haters.
Killing it. I'm just killing it.
Well, in better news, Age of Empires 4 has officially been announced. The title is under development at Relic Entertainment, known for the Company of Heroes series and other strategy games. Little is known thus far, other than that it'll be exclusive to Windows 10, but it appears the game won't be sticking to one era.
That's interesting. I mean,
I'm excited. I love Age of Empires. I'm more excited that they're remaking Age of Empires 2 and 3. Like, those were way.
You know, I remember playing Age of Empires. It was actually one of the first real-time strategy games that I played, and like being really, really into it. But for some reason, I'm not all that excited for it.
Well, I mean, when's the last time you heard about Age of Empires in any meaningful way? It's been since the 90s.
Yeah, I haven't.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, even when they were huge, I was not playing them that much. I mean, I think like really my first. No, I take that back. Like my first PC game. I'm trying to think. Oh my god. Probably Descent or Descent 2, or maybe even the Jurassic Park game back on DOS.
Oh jeez.
There was considerable effort to make that run on my Gateway 2000 computer from my dad.
Mine was a NASCAR game in DOS. It was terrible.
Oh, I think I may have had like an NHL 97 or maybe a couple of NBA games in there too. But I mean, like the first time that I had a computer that was mine, and I went out and I bought a game specifically like with my own money was like Ultima Online, right? Like I never got into the Age of Empires shit. I never got into like RTS was the thing that just totally bypassed me.
Yeah, see, for me, Age of Empires was like, oh, you know, I'm over at my grandma's house and she doesn't really have like games, but there's like a demo of Age of Empires or something from somewhere, and that's what I played.
Yeah, Age of Empires 2 was a game my friend had at his house, and he was always playing it, so I got into it through like being there when he was playing that game.
SimCity was one that I played a lot.
Oh, SimCity was great.
Yeah.
SimCity might have been my first PC game, I think.
I take it. Yeah, that may have been. Oh man. It's tough to remember. I also had floppy disks for Sim Ant. That was a thing that I had.
Wait, what?
Sim Ant.
Sim Ant?
Do you not?
What is that?
Oh my God! Do you guys not know about Sim Ant?
Sim Ant is great.
Oh my God!
No, I don't.
Sim Ant is the best sim game. You basically get to live out your deepest, darkest desires as an ant.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Just as a single ant?
As an ant.
Ant colony.
Goddamn right.
Yeah, picture, you know, like those old like little ant colonies that kids used to have? Yeah, you get plopped down in one of those and you build your colony.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
You've got to be careful of things like ant lions and spiders.
I had Simcopter.
And then there's also that piece of shit red faction that's out there too. The fucking fire ants. Those goddamn assholes. Yeah, no, Sim Ant. How do you not know about fucking Sim Ant?
The best game
It
ever.
really is. I'm pretty sure that there's like a browser version of it somewhere if you Google it.
I think Chris should stream it.
I'm pretty sure it is.
While we may not be big on theme park simulators, this is one I'm super ready for. A surprise reveal from Microsoft showed Jurassic World Evolution, a theme park sim where the players get to create their own Jurassic World, complete with dinosaurs rampaging all over the place.
I made a complete turnaround on this, and you can hear it on this week's Checkpoint Radio, because I go, yeah, this doesn't make sense. By the end of it, I'm like, oh, this makes total sense. Like, and I'm in. I'm
Yes.
totally in for this.
I don't know. I like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but I don't know if I'd want to terrorize people with dinosaurs.
This
doesn't sound fun to me.
I'm sorry. No. We just talked about SimCity. Okay, you cannot tell me that at some point in SimCity, at playing SimCity, that you would rain down like a hailstorm or fire or a tornado.
I only played Sims 1, 2, 3. I don't think I ever played SimCity either.
Okay, well, Nika, this just means that you would want to play it correctly and keep the dinosaurs within their cages. I mean, there are those of us, Chris, Joe, Nate, and myself, who'd be like, oh,
that's right.
Look, that fence is definitely not going to hold that Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, so you can make it like a normal theme park with the dinosaurs without forcing them to kill everyone.
Like you can play a normal game of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's essentially at its core, it's a resource management game. So I mean, like you're talking about like at first you're only going to have access to the shitty fences because that's all you can afford. Yeah. And if your park can do well enough and you can keep people reasonably safe enough, then you'll be able to buy the better, more reinforced fences.
Yeah. In the trailer, you actually hear, like, when the Tyrannosaurus gets out, you hear someone say something like, engage non-lethal takedown methods, right? So like you could send people in there to try and take it down peacefully to put it back in the cage because making a Tyrannosaurus probably costs a lot of fucking money.
Exactly,
or
yeah.
if you want to, save your people and just get rid of this as quickly as you can, you kill it, but then have to worry about making another Tyrannosaurus.
I'm looking forward to the part of the game where you're short on money, so you have to hire a fat computer programmer with like bad hygiene, and then he comes and ruins your park.
I hope that I really hope that there's a full splash screen at some point. That's like that whole thing.
If you put like too much of your money towards like maintenance and upkeep on the park, eventually like all your systems lock out and you just get that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm naming my
that's
Raptor,
the game over
my
screen.
Raptor Reserve Clever Girls.
What is this? What is this game coming out on?
I think it starts on. So it's Microsoft, so PC. And Xbox One X.
Nice.
One X.
I'm in. I'm totally in for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy this probably.
Like honestly, like it really does seem like SimCity but better. Like
pretty much
SimCity but with dinosaurs. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
So VR speculators got kind of excited this week as Valve announced a $200 price cut in the HTC Vive. It's been seen as one of the higher ends of VR, though there's, of course, been debate whether that actually exists. But the $800 price point was a hard pill to swallow for many that aren't yet sold on VR as a concept. With the Vive now only $100 more expensive than the Oculus Rift, Valve is hoping to see a boost in market share.
First of all, that's a deep cut. Second of all, still not enough. I'm still not dumping $600 for a fucking VR headset. Get the fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah, there's a few problems here. First of all, you can't just call yourself the high-end VR market when there isn't products to put on your high-end VR market. And as Nate just pointed out, $600 to buy the actual VR set. But how much money do you have to sink into a rig that can even support VR?
Yeah, exactly. And again, when you compare that up to the Sony VR, which is way cheaper, that's actually super consumer grade right there, and B, actually is way more in line with the games that are being developed for VR. Like, you don't need the specs of an HTC Vive or the specs that the PC needs to be able to support the HTC Vive. Robbie, you nailed it. The software is just not there to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so you can waggle your finger all you want. Oh yeah, software. They just have Skyrim and Fallout 4 being remade for them. People still buy Skyrim and Fallout 4. So why? I don't know, but they do.
Fair. So the Super NES Classic is still on schedule to release everywhere except for Quebec. Two EB Games employees there say the game system will not be releasing due to, quote, French language restrictions.
Yeah, so apparently Quebec is in this like really weird state where they want to hold on to their crazy hillbilly version of French, and so they like force everyone to you have to speak French if you're in Quebec, like all the signs Quebecian, like everything is literally French and Quebec. Like you can't speak English there. I mean,
yeah. No, you're right. Products there that have to be sold in French. Like they are fiercely protective of French being their first language.
Weird.
So fuck you, Quebec. I mean, I was gonna yell at Nintendo but I mean, like,
this is Quebec. This is 100% on Quebec.
This is okay. So, Checkpoint Radio distributed now among 30 cities in North America. So we've got a whole bunch of affiliates in Canada, right? Like we've got Vancouver, Hamilton, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal is in there too. No Quebec. No Quebec.
City.
The reason why? None of us speak French. That's why.
Yep. That's probably actually the reason. Yeah, exactly.
Je suis le grand ananas.
So you know what?
Tu as la petite pamplemousse. Oui.
There you go, Quebec.
Good job.
Take that. Now you'll never have Checkpoint.
Yeah. Don't ask me what I said, guys.
All right, let's all get to the rendezvous point. Speaking of virtual reality software, KFC is employing a new virtual reality game to help train employees. The game functions on Oculus technology and uses an escape room theme where players have to go through all the normal requirements of being a KFC employee before they can exit the room.
I can't wait. I can't wait for this software to leak and then someone start inserting the true nightmare that it is to work at KFC. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm waiting for PETA to get a hold of this and like do something to it.
You know what I mean? Like you complete the objective, except now you have to go back and repeat it 874 times before the game allows you to end, right?
I actually wouldn't mind like trying this out or trying to play this like on stream or something. That'd be amazing.
Stop it. Don't. What are you fucking even talking about?
Then we can all learn that Robbie's not qualified to work at KFC together.
There you go.
Do you guys remember the Hilton training game that was on the PSP?
No.
That was a thing. Yes, there was a Hilton training game that was on the PSP. And I don't know how I even know about this because I owned a PSP for maybe like 3 months. But maybe it was something that I picked up on at GameStop. I don't fucking remember. But yeah, there's like maybe it's not Hilton, but there's a hotel training game that was on PSP. It's like a super rare game. It's hard to find.
Huh.
But yeah, it's ridiculous shit like that no one is even interested. Look at the disinterest on all of your faces as I bring up the Hilton training game. Robbie, how many people do you think would watch you play the fucking KFC VR game?
I bet a lot of people would watch.
Just to like to see it, maybe. But like, could you go back and like do it multiple times? No way.
Yeah.
No.
Typhan in the chat. You'd have to. People watch 24-hour desert bus marathon streams. They'll watch anything.
You know, that's actually kind of a good point. But Robbie, I want you to try to make it your career. You know how some people, like they're career League of Legends streamers or,
Well, it's a competitive game is a little bit
exactly
different.
right. Like, Robbie, you have to get really, really, and I mean really good at this KFC VR game and stream it every single day.
Start doing time runs.
I mean, look, what else is going to get us on Kotaku, guys? Like,
you know what? Here, the sad thing is that probably would.
It actually probably would. If you played that for like a year straight, yeah, someone...
Rob, if you play for a year straight, you might get the dream job. You could be an assistant manager at KFC.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Listen, I've already accomplished all my goals when I had a cheeseburger.com article written about me and my Pokemon Go that spawn around here. That was amazing. So now my life is complete. I just want to be able to see you live your dreams, Robbie.
Become a BuzzFeed article at least once in your life.
That's right.
That should be on everybody's bucket list.
That's the goal, man. Living the dream.
Yeah.
So, according to Square Enix, Secret of Mana is getting a remake. It'll be a full remake, including voiceovers, updated gameplay, and new musical arrangements. And Secret of Mana is scheduled to release in North America on February 15th, 2018.
Nice.
I know a ton of people super psyched about this.
That's like 7 months from now.
That's interesting. And it's on Vita.
They're calling it a remake?
Yeah.
No, it's a complete remake.
Like
it's because it's like real graphics and voiceovers and stuff.
It's like 3D, bro. So okay, on the level of like the Pokemon remakes for Sapphire and Ruby, or on the level of like FF7.
I think it's like an FF7 remake, but not as good of graphics.
Hang on,
it's getting the entire game is getting completely remade from the ground up.
See, I think a much better analog is the way that they remade Final Fantasy IV for the DS.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm expecting. All right, just so everyone's clear, that's what I am expecting from this. I am absolutely going to fucking check this out. This is really like I for as much as I said, Secret of Mana should not have been included on the SNES Mini in favor of Chrono Trigger, and I still absolutely believe that. Secret of Mana was a great game.
See, I never played the first one. The one I played was Seiken Densetsu 3, I think, or the one that was never released in America. And that one was a ton of fun, and I would love to see a remake of that in an actual like legal American release.
Oh, really, Nika? So you're saying that you somehow acquired probably a ROM of this game? That sounds a little illegal, Nika.
Because there's no legal way to get it.
go to Japan.
If there was, I would buy it and I would play it.
You were in Japan not just a few months ago, Nico. You could have bought the game
A few months ago, try a year ago.
When did you go to that stupid Final Fantasy thing?
It was last June.
All
July.
right. Okay, so
over a year ago.
You had your chance, Nika.
Okay.
I think I'm going to turn you into the authorities.
Okay, please, and then show me how many emulators you have and how many ROMs you have.
Wow, that's an audacious accusation.
I don't know, Mr. Raspberry Pi. Is it? Is it? Is it? Do you have all of those? Do you have all of those cartridges? Huh? Yeah, you got all of those cartridges? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I deleted those within 24 hours. Okay, I'm fine.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Let me see.
The age-old 24-hour rule.
Let me see your copy of Bubsy, sir. I want to see your hard copy of Bubsy because I've got that tweet. I've got that tweet archived. I'm going to turn you over to the authorities.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I have 3 copies of Bubsy. Factory sealed in the thing, autograph signed by
by Bubsy himself.
By the Bubster. Okay.
The Bubs.
Are you okay there, Callie?
Sorry.
He's dry heaving.
Hey, no vomit. What a surprise.
Anyway, so yeah, no, I think that this is pretty cool. I'm down for a Secret of Mana remake. That was a game that I enjoyed.
Should it be on a Switch?
I mean, yes, it should be.
Yeah, actually, it should be on the Switch.
Wait, it's not on the Switch?
Totally agree with you.
It's only on the Vita, or is it on something else too?
No, it's on PS4, Vita, and Steam.
Yep.
What? That's so weird.
Well, no, because
it's Nintendo, so no, it's really not.
Yeah, but Square Enix puts shit on 3DS and stuff still.
It was on the Super Nintendo, so it should be on a Nintendo console.
I don't disagree, but I'm not surprised that it
but they
isn't
still
either.
but they still have games that come out for the 3DS, so it's kind of weird they wouldn't have it on the Switch.
I'm just does it seem like, and I may be, I don't know, assuming a little bit here, but does it seem like it might actually be a little bit harder to port games to the Switch than Nintendo was originally trying to sell?
Given the amount of how many Wii U games that have been ported to the Switch, no?
See, now, but you're talking about a Nintendo game going to another Nintendo platform. The Skyrim port to the Nintendo Switch has taken for fucking ever. Forever.
And remember
That's
that the Skyrim on the Switch was one of like the first titles
that was announced,
ever announced.
Exactly. See, now that makes me think that, if you're not a Nintendo developer or you're not coming directly from the Wii U, that you're actually going to have a tough time porting your assets to run in an acceptable frame rate over on the Switch hardware.
Yeah, and this could, well, I don't know. I'd see, because Nintendo has been able to keep itself self-sustained within its bubble for so long. I don't know how much of a problem this will end up being comparatively, but remember what kind of sank the 360 was the fact that so many developers started to walk away from the console during that generation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of things that sank the 360. The whole Red Ring issue, plagued that system for ages.
Well, I mean, let's not try to deride the 360 either, because it actually did do very well, especially when you compare it up to the performance of the first Xbox and the Xbox One. Like, that was the only generation where Microsoft actually was mildly competitive, right?
Sorry, maybe I meant the Xbox One, because when they came out with the Scorpio, the Xbox One X, they said that we want to be able to bring developers back to our console. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay. Yeah, so the Xbox One.
Yes, right.
Yeah, that hasn't done so great.
Yeah.
See, but again, though, this is I really worry about Nintendo's strategy for this reason, is because they've always been notoriously difficult to work with in terms of software, because they have the strangest architecture known to man when it comes to doing anything, like trying to get your 3DS to connect to the internet. Why is that so fucking obtuse? And why can I only save 3 of them? What is going on? I have like a 16 gig card in my fucking like 3DS. Why is this an issue? And Nintendo does shit like that. And then
hey Nate, will you add me to your friends list in Pokemon Sun and Moon?
No,
because you don't know how.
Because you never play it. That's the other issue. By the way,
you don't know how.
All right, fine. Well, since you want to, why is it that any time that I play a game that you guys are playing, you immediately go to another game? Is this like an inside joke between you guys as a crew? Like you're like, we can't ever play any game that Nate is playing ever. As soon as I get into it, you're like, all right, well, fuck this. I'm not playing Pokemon. My 9-year obsession with Pokemon ends today, I guess.
Well, I mean,
what is that shit?
To be fair, we have to talk the game up for like 4 months before you'll even try it.
We're still playing Overwatch. Where are you at?
Oh my God! The minute I start playing Overwatch, you're gonna be like, "Well,
Dude,
now we're playing Dota 2." I got to figure out where your next move is ahead of time. God damn it!
It's like the Ed, Ed, and Eddie episode where you got to catch up with the fads.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's you know what? That's what my life feels like trying to do these shows sometimes. Fucking assholes. God damn it.
All right, so guys, if you're going to tear into someone over a steroid scandal, make sure you tear into the right guy. UFC champ John Jones is currently mired in the midst of steroid issues, and people on Twitter have been letting him know about it. Unfortunately, they've been tweeting at video game developer John Jones instead. A little research, please, guys. Come on.
God damn it. This is, so oh my funny. God. This is why your little Reddit internet witch hunts are just such horseshit. Like, stop doing this to people. Like, this is not...
Maybe if Reddit, like, maybe the Reddit witch hunts are a good idea, because clearly these guys aren't doing their research while witch hunting, so maybe if Reddit got involved, they would actually do research and find the right guy's Twitter.
But I mean, like, I'm talking about that whole...
use Twitter as your form of, like, witch hunting and picketing, guys. I mean,
seriously.
Come on.
Fucking the Twitter warriors of this world are quite possibly the most annoying human beings on the fucking planet. And I don't care if it's you're tweeting Trump memes or if you're, SJWing about gender for fucking 30 bajillion tweets, Callie. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The only thing Twitter is good for is looking up Game of Thrones memes after the most recent episode.
That's a lot of fun.
It's actually not bad for porn gifs either.
Oh, really?
Interestingly, if you go to Twitter and you just search John Jones, 2 people pop up immediately. One of
them is part of the Justice League.
One of them is a guy with glasses, a mustache, a goatee, and his thing says Tech Geek #GameDev. And the guy next to it is a picture of a lion with a UFC championship belt over it.
Jesus Christ, guys!
The wrong guy.
This is not fucking hard. This is not hard. You know what this is? This is like, you know how you can @ somebody and then it just starts to auto-fill in a name? That's what that is. Yeah. And they're just not even bothering to check and see if it's I do that shit all the time. Like, by mistake, I'll fire off a tweet and I'll be like, I hope that it's, whatever it is. And then I'll look and be like, well, that's not even an actual Twitter account.
Thank you. I do the exact same thing, Nate. Like, I've had to retweet things several times because I get, like, the wrong person, or I'll go and look and I'm like, I still don't know if this is the right person or the right group or not. I better just take it out altogether.
I have to literally sometimes look it up in the web browser, and then I'm like, why do I even have an app? Why? Like... Like, what's the fucking point? Like, if I've got to, God damn it, it's so stupid.
During the Dota 2 International, I was tweeting about a team, and like when I went to their page, like there wasn't anything up there that really like was distinguishable enough. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not tweeting at them then.
Dude, it really sometimes it is really frustrating to try to figure that stuff out, because it's like, and sometimes people's names are just like not even in the same fucking ballpark, and. It's just Twitter as a platform is one that I hate, but not as much as Instagram. Instagram is so much worse.
Is anyone getting to the point now where Facebook has just become the worst? I hate Facebook.
Oh, absolutely.
I hate it
absolutely.
So much.
I still like Facebook.
No, I hate the idea of social media as a communication tool or a discussion platform, because it's not. All it is just braying jackasses throwing their opinions back and forth and not even bothering to read a full statement until they hit reply. And it's fucking boring. For me, it's entirely boring because there's no control valve on the shit. Like it's total opinion, unedited all the time, and it's fucking most of the time it's just gross.
Dude, like Facebook is good for like our host page. That's what Facebook is useful for.
Yeah.
I hate it outside of that.
That's why
I like it for cosplay stuff.
Away.
But even still, then again, the way that their like page algorithms work, like you could share like the most beautiful, epic, edited cosplay photo and gets 100 views, and you show like a really stupid selfie and it gets like 1 million views. You're like, okay.
Did the selfie have more boobs in it?
Not necessarily. It's just the weird algorithm of like, it seems like selfies get seen more than really nice edited photos.
Probably had more boobs in it.
Yeah, there's a secret boob algorithm.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I'm fucking over the Facebook thing. I'm just over social media in general. And I feel like there are actually more people that are getting like that are just like, you know what? Everything is bullshit on this platform. I can't trust anything. Like people used to be like, yeah, I get my news from Facebook. Guess what? Not anymore. It's all fucking horseshit. No. Like that's. I'm to the point where I believe that everything is bullshit. Like that I'm shown. Like I don't believe anything is real anymore. It's all fucking horseshit. Yeah.
You know, I just saw the episode of
predicaments.
I just saw the episode of South Park last night where the bar has lowered so much that like garbage is just acceptable on TV, and that's kind of like that's where I feel like social media has gotten to, where it's just everything you see on social media is trash effectively, and everyone's perfectly okay with it. And like, how do we get to this point? We need James Cameron to save us.
James Cameron?
Who?
Why
that's how
James?
That episode ends. James Cameron raises the bar.
That's the Titanic guy.
Oh, okay, right. I remember that. Yeah,
also,
yeah.
My heart will go on.
Yes, that's right.
No, I Callie, I think you actually kind of bring up a good point, and yeah, like it does feel like. I mean, not that social media ever had some bar to begin with. You know what I mean? It's not like it was a terribly well-curated platform for ideas or discussions, but it just seems like lately I just can't even fucking deal with like just the basics of trying to keep up the appearances. No, I can't even.
Started, it was kind of amusing to be like, oh, look at these idiots, but then people started to like follow them and latch onto them, and now the whole like idiot thing is like widespread, and you're like, oh my god, people believe this shit.
I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the news reports on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, I've been saying that for fucking years. Like, why is the news reporting on anything on Twitter? Well, now it's the primary communication medium for our fucking president, and they have to. But before this, why in the fuck would you report on anything if you are a journalistic establishment? Why would you report on anything on Twitter?
Got to keep that 24-hour news cycle going.
Like, unless it was directly tweeted at you and it was someone's opinion that you were trying to share to inform the discussion, why would you report on Twitter? And that blows my fucking mind. And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why we're starting to see the shittiness of regular media and social media kind of commingle. Not only that, but you've also got the ego involved. Everyone thinks everything is about them. You know, like you talk to kids now who, want to be media stars. They all want to start fucking YouTube channels. They all want to be social media stars. And you know what the bar there is? I mean, honestly, do you know what the bar of success there is? It's disturbing the lengths that people will go to be able to attract attention.
Yeah.
That's it. Whether you're fucking Psycho Family, or whether you're one of these booby streamers, or whether you're fucking Kylie Jenner. You know what I mean? Like, it's all kind of the same thing. And essentially what it comes down to is people debasing themselves to be able to get attention. But guess what? They're able to market that shit now. Now companies come to them and be like, hey, I want to pay you $10,000 if you take a picture of some sneakers that we're going to send you. You don't have to do anything. We're going to send them to you. Just make it look like you bought them. We're going to pay you $10,000 for that.
Thanks.
Actually, I'm pretty sure all sponsors like that you have to actually say when it's a sponsored. You can't say, look, I bought this when I really didn't.
Now you do. Now you do. Yeah. Because people like the fucking Kardashians and Jenners of the world made an assload of money doing that. And, by the way, you don't have to disclose when someone gave you, like the clothes that you're wearing, right? If someone wants to pay you as a sponsor to wear their clothes, their brand, you actually don't have to disclose that that's an ad. If you're just taking a picture with it and not directing people, you need the call to action in there to make it an ad. That's not an ad. That's a passive sponsorship.
Yeah, the line for that is very, very fine.
It is super fine. Super fine.
My whole thing is like, go on your Facebook feed and start scrolling down and see how far you have to go to find a meaningful status update from someone you know. Like something that isn't a video or a meme or some bullshit picture that reposts 5 times. Like none of that. Like an actual meaningful update about something going on in someone's life that you know. Like,
why would
you have to go for that?
Why would you want that? Why?
I'm not saying but that was the whole point of the platform originally. You know what I mean? And it's sure there got to be a point in time where oh my God, I don't care all that much. But now all we have in its place is an endless deluge of memes and stupid videos.
But you understand that there's no money in finding out about your aunt's kidney surgery, right? You understand that makes no money for Facebook.
And it didn't used to matter until Facebook went public with all of this, and then all of a sudden
it didn't used to matter. And now what do you see? Where do you see platforms trying to attract, who they want to represent their platform? For YouTube, guess what? It's not your average dude with the camera anymore. It's the well-established media brands that have been around for 10, 20, 30, 50 years. Same thing with Facebook TV that's launching. Who are they trying to get on? Are they trying Facebook TV. Are they trying to get talented people from maybe the YouTube space that were breakout stars? No. They want to put on, fucking I don't even Bravo reality TV shows. Ugh. They want you to watch your Real Housewives of blank there. So, look at where these companies kind of spend their money and who they want using their platform. They want you using their platform insofar as you give them likes and you give them comments and you give them data. But they don't really make money off of you. Not really. They make money off of showing you shit to buy.
Yep.
That's why it takes 7 scrolls before you get to anything meaningful or anything that you give a shit. Yeah. It's literally, it feels like late night television where you would get 13 uninterrupted minutes of commercials.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They crammed in all of their cheapy, their cheapy inventory overnight, and it would be infomercial, 13 minutes of commercials, then more infomercial.
Yeah, the thing that when I found out about it, I think kind of grossed me out the most is as you're scrolling, you don't even actually have to actively watch something. Scrolling past it counts as a view.
Yeah.
Because it starts playing automatically now.
Infinity Fox in our chat saying, well, if you have a strong enough ad blocker. No! That doesn't stop sponsored content. Name an ad blocker strong enough, please, that will remove the brought to you by whatever, stupid mobile game, my favorite YouTube show is now brought to me by. But that's the game, though. Like, that's how money is made in this business.
There is an ad blocker that blocks those YouTube ads. I've seen them.
Oh, you can block
It's a live read in a pre-roll on a video. Right. Like, unless it knew to start the video at 2 minutes 35 seconds, you're not.
Look, I'm scrolling down my timeline, and it's letting me know that my sister and 9 other friends liked a certain phone company, and here's a video for me.
Exactly.
You can't block that.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I think you can block that shit. I actually think that I don't know. I mean, don't ask me.
I can hide ad or see fewer ads like this, but it's always going to replace it with another ad.
There's actually shit like there are plugins that that will go through your feed, and if someone mentions bullshit about their baby or posts a picture of their baby, it'll replace it with something awesome like a car on fire. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like
an ad for Guild Wars 2 next. That's a little bit more appropriate, though.
So, like, yeah, like there is stuff that will be able to identify that stuff, that kind of. But I'm talking about, like, you know, somebody takes a picture of some shit that a company sends them and gives them a check at the same time. They post it to their Instagram, that you know, or they wear it out in public. Like, that's not. You don't have to disclose that. Right? Like, that's a passive sponsorship. But at the same time, though, that's how business is done. Like, in the media, that's how business is done. Part of the problem that we have with Checkpoint right now is that, you know, we approach people all the time about, you know, sponsoring the show or wanting to buy ad time on the show, and they look at our social media profile and they go, well, you've only got a couple of hundred likes here on Facebook and Twitter. Well, you need to grow. Like, the magic number, by the way, is like above 10,000. Like,
oh my god,
yeah, it's got to be pretty high.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I'm really glad that people are, you know, finding Check PT Radio on Facebook and Twitter, and liking and that we're getting a good, we're getting a good community around it. But the thing is that it's got to grow at a way faster pace than that. You know what I mean? Like if we want to be able to market it to a company, then we've got to be able to grow it way, way faster. That's the game, because they don't really care about the ad space on the air so much as they care about the social media value.
Clicks.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? It's ridiculous how this shit is like is kind of reversing. And again, I'm so done with social media on a personal level. You know, like I don't know, like. Having it be a part of my job was really annoying, but you know, like I don't know, man. I think that at some point the bubble around social media is going to burst, but I don't see how. Like, Facebook is such a juggernaut. I don't know how that happens.
It's also ingrained in our daily lives. I don't know how it's going to burst, but I agree. Like, that bubble is there. It has to at some point.
Yeah.
Mark,
fuck you, John Jones.
Oh yeah. Mark Laidlaw, a former writer for Valve who wrote Half-Life 1 and 2, has now posted on his blog an interesting story. The story follows Gertie Fremont and tells a conclusion to a story that should sound very familiar. Since Half-Life 3 is likely never coming, this may be the closest fans get. So if you want to know what was supposed to happen in Half-Life 3, this is what theoretically could have happened. It's over at his blog.
So basically, to finally get the Half-Life 3 out there, it's just going to be 2 point something.
Well, I mean, this is like literally like he used to work for Valve and just post on his blog a story following a gender bent Gordon Freeman that, you know, tells what might have happened.
You do that.
Sure.
Okay. The disdain on his face when he said that, like the way that his eyes like shifted. Oh, that was worth it.
Great. In the wake of the PUBG Invitational, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is continuing to grow rapidly. The game has now moved 8 million copies since its release in March and has reached 810,000 concurrent players on Steam. It now trails Dota 2 by only 30,000 people.
That's very impressive. Did you guys watch any of the Invitational?
I did. I watched a lot of it.
I watched the final match. The
squad one?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I was impressed. I definitely am curious to check out the game. Like, Ryoko graciously gifted it to me on Steam.
Yay, Ryoku.
But I haven't had a chance to check it out just yet. But this was very entertaining to watch. I was mostly curious to see how the casters were approaching the format, which I thought they actually did a very good job with, but did have some of my concerns, like confirmed in that, because like for as well as it was done, it still had some really major problems. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the ability for replay. Like replay would have been huge,
or to confirm replay, and actually
that too.
Happened.
Like
this happened in the international too. There were a few times where they'd be like, hopefully they show us that again so that we can confirm.
Right, and I think that's probably not a good idea for a sports presentation, right? Like. I definitely think they're going to need to add a much more comprehensive, like kind of spectator-ish mode that casters would have to be in, because as far as I could tell, they were just mostly observing different people's screens and moving between them, and sometimes looking at the map to see where the play area was and where the different squads were. So until they add a little bit more of a meaningful way to move between people and check up on action, then I think that what they would need to do is have a much more comprehensive production team working on something like this. Now,
also,
obviously,
keep in mind too, still an early access game,
right? And with this being like really the first meaningful tournament for PUBG, I know that PlayerUnknown actually came out afterwards and said, "Hey, thank you guys for your patience. This was really just kind of a trial run to see if something like this would work." So I'm just trying to give them some ideas for the future. This is not a criticism, because I think for their very first time they did a remarkable job.
Better than For Honor.
For the task that they were undertaking. They really knocked it out of the park. Okay, that said, I think you're going to need to get more robust with your production crew and have multiple people in that spectator mode taking multiple angles, right? So you would have someone that, and this is just kind of an ideal situation, because trust me, you're going to have tons of money to be able to throw at this thing, but. An ideal situation would be, you've got your live feed, which of course the casters are always commenting on, and then you would have one line of like 3 or 4 people who are just in spectator mode that are paying attention to the beats of the match and trying that the priority for them is to get the major action and record it. Once that's recorded, there's got to be another production team of like maybe 2 people that are cutting it up and getting it ready for an instant replay, so that the casters, who are doing a great job of, by the way, giving you a full context on what's happening on the map, far better than I could just by observing a game of PUBG, mind you, that they would then have access to, like, oh, I hope that we get to see that. Like, those moments don't happen. They're there in the can ready.
Let's see that again. And
exactly.
Pull it up for them.
Exactly. But as a caster, you can't do that if you're trying to call. Like, it definitely takes a production team. And I think if you had at least a small, 6-person production team, that you could easily pull that off and have it be really cool.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to take a moment just to, again, commend those casters who I thought did a really good job and had a lot of chemistry with each other. The female caster in particular, I thought was so good and so entertaining over the course of the 3 days. And really, the production itself, I did think got better as the days went on. The first day, singles competition was kind of rough, especially with the camera work, but it got better as the event went on.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you got to keep in mind, is that especially for esports, when we talk about camera work, you've got 2 different aspects, because you've got the live camera work that happens in the event studio itself, and that takes a lot of really traditional knowledge of the way that camera angles are operate, the way that you get light balancing and all those very technical production things of lighting and covering a room in cameras, right? But then you've got this other aspect, and it's in it, and I think that this is the thing that people kind of forget, like even a lot of tournaments forget, is that 50% of your presentation is in game. 50% of your presentation. I mean, when we were watching Dota 2, when we were watching the International, right? Like, for impressive as that stage was, for most of the time you were watching the game.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need, like, developers, especially if they have a very robust competitive scene, really need to give some forethought into a spectator mode and the way, and giving casters the tools to be able to make an amazing, live presentation, because all of those things have got to happen live. Like, all of those things, like, production crews are very, very adept at doing this, but maybe not as adept at getting, following the action in the game. So there's got to be, a variety of skills that would go into something like this. But that said, again, yeah, for the very first presentation of it, very impressed.
I have a question for you, Callie. So I think at this point, it's sort of inevitable that PlayerUnknown Battleground is probably going to surpass Dota 2 for concurrent users, right? Yeah. How long do you think this is going to last? Do you think Dota 2 has the legs to be more than just a fad? You think it's going to be like a staple mainstay of Steam and Twitch for a while now?
You mean PUBG?
PUBG, you mean?
PUBG, yeah, sorry.
I do think it does. We haven't even gotten to game release yet. There's more maps coming, which I did not even realize there was going to be more maps added.
Yeah, that's actually amazing.
Yeah, so there's a new map coming. It's a desert map, and people are finally getting to the point where they're saying, hey, we need somewhere else to play. We've kind of figured out this map, as large as it is. But it's been confirmed that there are 2 more maps in development. Yeah,
wow.
I think
I think that's a big deal. Like finding out that there's 2 more maps, like, that's huge.
Yeah,
like,
and
they could have gone to market with what they have and probably been okay, but going to market with possibly 3 maps, wow.
I think at market launch they'll have 2 of them out. I don't think the third one will be out yet. But PlayerUnknown has come out and said that development time on a map is 1 year. Like, it takes.
Wow, really?
Because
they're big maps.
The maps are huge.
Yeah.
They're massive.
Yeah, it has to be able to accommodate 100 players comfortably. And yeah, for an idea of how big it is, you can run around on those maps even with 100 people and not see anyone for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well, and I think I guess my best analogy would be like it's one of them. It's sort of like one of the medium-sized islands from Just Cause. Just Cause 3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that big, but it is, it is big. And I mean, Nika, I think you should check out PUBG, because part of it is like, yeah, you're dropped into this huge map, but the map gets smaller and smaller as time goes on.
Right.
So you're forced to engage with people. It does have a very specific mechanic, so that, like, if you're down to 2 squads, or you're down to, I don't know, like 10 people or whatever, you're not spread out across this huge map trying to find people.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
By the time the game's over, like in the last 10 people alive, you won't be on a map like any bigger than, I don't know, 50 meters. Not even. Like, it'll be real small by the time you finally get to the end of the game.
Yeah, right.
All right. So PC players are looking forward to Monster Hunter World, the first game in the series to be available on the computer. The producer of the game announced this week that there will be free DLC in the form of new quests added to the game post-release, which is a nice change of pace in the era of season passes.
Who cares?
All right, so who actually plans on getting Monster Hunter Worlds?
Me.
I've never cared for Monster Hunter.
Because I've played so many iterations of it, but if you don't have the people to play with, it gets old very, very quickly. And I feel like this is the best time for, like, multiple people to get into it. But I ain't buying it unless at least 2 of you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been able to get into a Monster Hunter game at all. Like, I just haven't. Like, I don't know what it is about it. Because it's got big swords. You would think, like, dude, That's a Nero shit right there. Like, and it does.
Have you ever tried to get into it with people though, or has it always just been like you?
It's all. I've always been very isolated with it. Yeah.
Yes, and with it always being, well, except when it was on the Wii U, but whenever I've gotten to it, it's always been on the handhelds, and even on the handhelds, like with the 3DS and stuff, you had to actually be with the people. You had to be within their vicinity. Which again, when I did that with our old roommates Matt and Frank, it was amazing fun. That was actually probably the last time where like you look outside and you're like, oh my god, it's light out. Like that's how long we played for. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, just playing it by yourself or not having the ability to play with someone who's towns or states away that way, it kind of loses a lot of its appeal. So obviously being on PlayStation, the whole PSN is a great way to do it. So I actually have high hopes for this one.
Yeah, I mean it. I wish I was into it more. You know what I mean? Like I wish I was like Capcom games, because it is Capcom, right? Like
it is.
It is. Yeah, because they've only ever done one game recently that I really enjoyed, and that was Dragon's Dogma, and so if they brought some mechanics in from that, because it's got sort of the same thing where you're fighting up a really big monster. Like I haven't. Here's the thing: I haven't seen that much because again, Monster Hunter not really my thing. I'm not that tuned into it. Can you like climb on the fucking dinosaurs and shit now? Is that a thing? Like kind of Dragon's Dogma?
I don't know how much they've confirmed of that, but in some of the trailers or stuff, yeah, like I've seen the players like attach them or on them in certain ways. Okay. I don't think it was ever anything that you could do in the DS versions, but it definitely looks like they've obviously upped the game now that it's only on a console.
Yeah, because
a real console.
I mean, the most that I've seen of it is what we saw at E3.
Right.
And I do remember a couple of moments like that. So if it was a little bit more like Dragon's Dogma, I could see maybe being able to get into it.
Well, and one of the reasons why I think that you would be really into it as well is to the untrained eye, it would look like it's just a hack and slash game. Like you just go in and you just let loose. But it's actually very, very precise. You actually have to learn how to use and fight with each weapon. You can't just go in there and just be pressing all the buttons that you want. Like how long things take to wind up or how they're executed takes a very, very fine eye and very tuned motor skills to get those down. I can actually there's only like 2 weapons that I can actually get the hang of to use proficiently. Like the other ones, like I can't do it. I just don't have the skill set for it.
Man, you know what game that sounds like? That sounds like Dark Souls.
It does. It does actually, and that's I don't know, but there's something about the way that Capcom animates their shit that I don't know why it is that it particularly bothers me. It bothered me throughout Dragon's Dogma as well. But our chat room kind of confirming that Typhian saying that the mechanics, wind-up times, etc., are satisfying to learn, and then saying that Dragon's Dogma also seemed like a test bed for future Monster Hunter mechanics. Other members of our chat, Elican, saying that you would be able to mount them, and in some cases you had to mount them. So
interesting.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I guess I'm a little bit more interested than in that case, but I don't know.
If you wanted to get on the ground floor of a game that we as a group might be looking into, instead of waiting 4 months down the road when we get out of it, this might be one of them.
Bullshit! I'm not going to be the first one to buy it. You fucking lying sack of shit.
I'm gonna let Callie buy it first to begin with.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because that's what I heard about For Honor, you dick.
Hey, we were all duped by For Honor.
We all, you know what, to be fair, we all did get screwed by For Honor.
Yeah. So Gamescom handed out their annual awards, and without getting too deep into all of them, Super Mario Odyssey was the winner of Best Game, Destiny 2 got Best Multiplayer, and Battlefield 1 In the Name of the Tsar got Best DLC.
We're handing out awards for Best DLC now?
I mean, that's fair, though.
I mean, DLC is like half the game now, so yeah, why not?
It's sad because it's true.
Although at the same time, on a recent show, and I at this point I don't even remember if it was FEC or Checkpoint, we've been quick to point out that when DLC is done bad, like we're the first ones to drag it through the mud, but nobody ever talks about DLC that's done good. So
that was Checkpoint, and that is still a fair point.
Yeah,
that is true. That is true. I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to praise that kind of, like DLC as a category.
I know, because this is what I
maybe
feel.
not encourage it.
Because look at The Witcher 3, right? It was a fully complete, perfect game. And then the DLC was literally an expansion story. It was an extra add-on that you didn't have to do to complete the main story. The game was finished on its own, and it was amazing.
And a lot of people said that particular one actually felt like a whole new game. So.
Yeah.
It did.
If it's done right, it should be praised.
I will grant you.
This is necessarily done right.
I will grant you that. A lot of people really, really, really liked that DLC.
CD Projekt Red as a company is a great company. Like, even during the original games, you could get the DLC amongst multiple computers and accounts and stuff like that. And they just know how to talk to their fans a lot more than some of these other stupid video game companies.
Do we have to disclose that you've worked for them before?
I have not worked for them. I have not worked for them. By the Polish embassy, not by CD Projekt Red.
That's actually probably fair.
I have not worked for the gaming company. I've worked for Poland.
And who was hired by the Polish embassy?
Embassy?
I mean,
you imbecillery?
Oh my God.
The imbecilation in this one is strong.
Yeah. All right. Well,
you could say I'm the epitome of it.
You could, I suppose. For more of the latest video game news, head on over to checkpointradio.com, and while you're there, subscribe to the Checkpoint podcast feed.
That's right. So, by the way, again, checkpointradio.com, twitch.tv/checkpointradio if you want to join us live on Wednesdays. It was a lot of fun doing the show live this Wednesday. We're looking forward to doing another session this week. Eventually, that show all 2 hours of it will be live. So again, head on over to twitch.tv/checkpointradio and follow if that sounds like something that you want to join in on. All right. So an interesting statistic coming out this week. And we got this story from twinfinite.net, which says that Final Fantasy 15 players, only 60% of people who purchased that game
liked it,
finished it.
Really?
Wow, that seems awfully high.
I thought the exact same thing.
We thought it was high? That sounds so low to me.
Oh, well, hold on. Let's take a quick poll right here.
Well, wait. What I need to know is what's the percentage of people that bought 13 that finished it?
See, that's actually one of the points of this. This is such a new statistic for us to be able to have any access to.
Right.
Like, only in the era of the always-on.
Good
console can you
point.
measure that.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's exactly. So let's see. A couple of statistics here. Only 60% of players have actually completed Final Fantasy 15 since launch. Tabata explains that there's a certain metric that we use to judge the success completion rate. He also states how much the completion rate was after a month of release, which was 30%. That 30% is expected since it takes quite some time to finish the main story of the game. But it's surprising to know that 40% total players have not gotten to the end of the game. 40%. That's a lot. For a Final Fantasy game, that is quite a bit. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I may have lost connection. Hey, are you guys there? I see Callie moving now. Interesting. What's going on here? Wow. Okay. All right. We've got people switched around into different frames. And I can no longer hear them. Oh, this is good. This is what happens. This is what happens when you have to engineer a show all alone. I think maybe I may have lost one of the computers. Maybe I'm going to turn on. Oh, this is fun. This is a fun podcast. God damn it. Hi. All right. What happened over here? Computer, what are you telling me? What happened? Let's see. Oh. What the fuck? Oh, cool. Well, that's fun. So, the computer Jesus!
Maybe a boat ran into a power line.
Holy Christ! Your guys are back now.
Hello. Hey, I hear him. There he is.
Okay, that was strange.
It was a Zoom thing, I think.
Yeah, I think Zoom failed.
Yeah.
Zoom completely froze, and it just unfroze after like a minute.
What the fuck was that?
Zoom.
Now you're all in different frames. So,
Really?
so Robbie, you now have to be Callie. Chris, you're Nika.
Let me go put boobs on.
Nika, you're Robbie, and Callie, you are Chris. Which is
All right,
normal.
sure,
That's normal.
Let's do it.
That's normal.
Look at Kelly trying to be fat.
I love Nintendo.
Chat saying we got Zoom casted. That was I started to legitimately sweat because I was here alone. I was talking to no one in particular. Wow. Okay.
Hey, I'm a girl. I have really bad ideas. La la la. Witcher is so good because there's card games that I get with having sex with people.
Guess what? Guess what, guys? This means that you can no longer do this. Like, we can no longer have a Zoom-only show. There needs to at least be one other person here, so I'm not just talking to myself. Because I'm like, oh, if Zoom went down, clearly the whole stream is down. Nope. Still just talking to the stream.
Can I have a one-man show? I say you take it up as a challenge. One-man show.
Yeah, and trying to engineer the technical problems with the computer that can only be operated on the other side of the room. Yeah, this is going to go really well.
Sock puppet.
This is going to go super fucking well.
Use your love of MS3TK or whatever and just make a bunch of puppets to talk to.
Oh, yeah. Well,
or talk to Tracer.
At least with MST3K, there were other people who were controlling the puppets that they could talk to.
That's fair. Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to have to fix the names here in just a hot second. But anyway, let's get back to what we were trying to talk about. Thanks, Zoom. Now I think we really do have a reason to try to maybe make shit work with the Twitch desktop app or one of these other, maybe Discord, because Discord's trying out video calling as well.
Really?
Discord, fix our problems, please. This is fucking
You're so
ridiculous.
good at everything else.
This is ridiculous. Anyway, I could hear Facebook noises in the background, so that's good. So let's talk about Final Fantasy 15. 40% of players not getting to the end of the game. That is a pretty surprising statistic, considering that, the game sold relatively well.
Actually, very well, didn't it? Because I think within like the first few weeks, they had said that the number of copies sold technically made them a profit or made it successful, quote unquote.
Yeah, something like that. And so, finding out that 40% of players who picked it up not actually completing the game, why do you guys think that the completion rate is so low?
Well, I think it's one of the biggest reasons, and this is the first thing that I see everybody echo. In fact, a lot of people in our chat were saying the same thing when you had mentioned the statistic, was they were like, oh, well, you know what, I'll complete it when Square Enix does. And I think the fact that it had came out and there was this sentiment that it was unfinished, not just from like our point of view, but even Square Enix was like, we're going to update it with more cutscenes and add a little bit, more dialogue to sort of flesh some stuff out. That there, whether or not Square Enix is going to come right out and say it, confirms to players this game was not ready.
Right. Yeah.
I think
amongst us, just this cast, 40% of people have completed it. Two of you, Callie and Nika.
That's fair.
I think a big part of it is that it's really easy to get bogged down in the early chapters with side quests, and there are so many people that feel like a completionist and they have to finish it and have to finish every side quest, and so there are people who will, in that case, end up just kind of putting it down and not wanting to go back into that slosh of side quests.
I agree with that. I think a lot of people got to like we're open world now, we're good. I'm going to do every single side quest before I move on with the story, and that's boring as hell. Like, it gets really monotonous if you try to do that. So they're like, I don't want to keep going with the story. Like, I was trying to do all the side quests, and I just got.
I did them all.
Like, fuck it, no.
Well, except the fishing one. I didn't finish that because fuck fishing.
No, I got to the point where I was just, I'm done. I need to see how this game ends and just call it a day. But yeah, I think a lot of people probably just got bogged down trying to do every single side quest and said, fuck this.
But other games that do the same thing don't do that to me. Like I feel like that trait itself isn't something that'll kill a game, right?
I think it is in this case personally because they don't.
Why?
They don't.
If you say in this case personally,
I'll tell you why.
It's not because of that trait.
I think so because in this case they do not. They didn't pace the release of the side quest well. You could literally do like 90% of all the side quests in the game by like chapter 3. Like they don't. There's very very few that are blocked out based on parts of the map you haven't gotten to yet. There are even less that are blocked out based on like how far you are in the MSQ.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just do one chain of quests and just follow it through for hours and you haven't done any of the main story yet.
Okay, so it's the
pace
pacing of it.
and there's the FF15's biggest issue was its pacing, not only in its quest delivery but in its I guess its MSQ was part of it too. Like there was like 20,000 side quests per chapter and like 1 or 2 MSQ quests per chapter. And that just felt like, while the story itself I think was one of the best Final Fantasy stories, the storytelling left it very jarring and it just didn't feel like they knew how they wanted to tell their own story. And the pacing of the entire game was like, okay, you just want to throw me into this beautiful world and let me explore the world and then not give me the story, which is why I'm here.
Well, they've had the world made for the better part of 10 fucking years. Maybe not 10 years. Okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because it takes a while to make a world. Okay, let's say 5, right? Like they knew that even back when before this game was Final Fantasy 15, like they were working on the setting. The setting hadn't changed. You know, we saw a lot of those early assets that was set in where the FF15 eventually ended up being set in. It felt like a shoehorn story that they redirected. Like there seemed to be so many concessions with the story. First of all, that like the middle part just dragged. That's where it lost me. I'm like, and that's where I tapped out. I so did not give a fuck about the fucking. Any of
boys to men.
Yeah, really.
See, I don't know. I thought
boys to 11 men.
I thought they did a good job of making me care about the boys, but literally nobody else. And I think that was an issue.
Okay, see, yeah, that's an issue that I actually wanted to bring up is because, again, I wasn't one of the ones that beat it, but I gave up about the same place that Nate did. And my problem was that I felt like, and I realized this was supposed to be a personal story, and we were supposed to get like this inside look at Noctis and his friends, but I felt like it focused too much on them with the plot holes that it had. And what I actually wanted to know more about was the world.
Exactly.
And you would think with all these side quests that you're talking about, Nika, that wouldn't have been a problem. But every time you got to some point where like Titan's lifting up out of the earth, I'm like, all right, what's his deal? And nobody's telling me.
Hey, let's go take.
Was there an anime that I missed somewhere?
Let's go. Yeah, like the side quest.
No.
The side quest is like, hey, let's go capture frogs. Like it's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean?
That quest was silly.
No, like, but there's so much of that, and there are so many opportunities to tell the story. And then I did feel at some point, like, especially after I got the game, and so much of the game was not like so much of the game was not actually about the fucking world that it was in, or like exploring like in a real world or in a real way, like a meaningful way, what the world was all about. You know what I mean? Like, because that was the experience that I got, I felt like all of that ancillary shit that they tried to tack on the movie, the anime series, all of that. But I felt
no, they weren't. They were fucking terrible.
I'll defend the anime and the movie all day. Let's not even.
But
get
that's
into that.
no. But it felt like, because outside of Brotherhood, which was released onto YouTube, but like they put that Kingsglaive movie into fucking theaters. Like
Right, but then they let you buy it online like a month later for $15.
Okay, but they're still letting you. They're making you buy it. You know what I mean?
But
like
you didn't have to watch the movie to understand. Like, though I think that you had more context for the ring. I feel like the game did not do a good job of describing how important the ring was, unless you watched the movie. But other than that, you really didn't need to.
But other than this giant plot hole not being available in the game, you really didn't need.
But no. You're misunderstanding my point. Like. on the outs, just like as a casual onlooker and observer, if that's the game that you present to me with your game, and then go, oh hey, but there's this anime in this movie, I'm like, fuck you, I'm done. Like, there at some point you can make all of the ancillary media that you want. I don't give a shit. And that was my concern when we started hearing about how much side bullshit and ancillary bullshit was coming out with 15, is like, you guys didn't sell me on the world. You didn't sell me on the characters were probably the only thing that you did do a good job of creating and selling me on. But you didn't sell me on the world. You didn't sell me on the story. You didn't sell me on the conflict that's at the heart of the whole fucking thing. So why? Why?
Yeah.
Like if I don't care from your game, then why should, like, how am I supposed to invest that much time or effort into watching a movie and an anime series and playing like your fucking mobile game or whatever the fuck it is that Square Enix expects us to do to get a full fucking picture of the thing?
FF15 suffered from the jack of all trades, master of none type of mentality. Like, they looked at every single game that had been doing well at that time, and they're like, okay, open world is good, let's do open world. Okay, stealth is good, let's throw a random chapter in with stealth. Decisions, putting decisions and conversations, okay, let's do that. Action battle system, okay, let's do that. And a character only told, the story only told from one character's point of view, let's do that. And so they throw in all of these things where, when in isolation, one or two of them in a game can make a very, very fantastic game, but when you throw all five of them in, it became a bit of a mess. And I think that the choice to make the story only follow Noctis and literally nothing you knew is anything that Noctis didn't know, I think that was a big hindrance to the pacing of the story.
Okay, all right. This is very important and also very ironic because Nika, I think, is doing the exact same thing that the game is doing, right? She didn't touch on anything of what Nate just said about the movie or the anime and instead just pivoted to something completely different. But she sounded like she knew what she was talking about.
No,
I do.
I get what she's saying, though. Like, think about FF9. Imagine if you played through FF9 and they only gave you it from Zidane's perspective, the entire
game. It would be weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, think of like how garbage the whole sequence of the Leafa tree would have been.
But the story itself,
Zidane.
right? But the story itself is still a good story. It just wasn't told properly, and that's where 15 faltered.
Okay, but when it comes to a game like a Final Fantasy game where people come expecting a great story, that is a big pitfall.
No, I agree. You gotta get it right, and I think that's one of the reasons you look at 60% of the people actually cleared the game. They're like,
So let me ask you this now, guys.
Is it because that it takes so long for there to become a clear villain, a clear antagonist in the narrative?
No, I don't think so, because I think Arden is probably one of the best villains personally.
But
it takes so
40%
long.
of people don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it takes so long to actually get to the point where you know who that character is that, like, you know what I mean? Like, it becomes... I think people tap out before that.
But I don't think you always need a clear, like, I'm the good guy, this is the bad guy from the beginning of the game. I think the part of it is that at the beginning when you meet him, you know he has an agenda, but you don't know what it is. And I think the buildup of him as a villain to the reveal is actually much cooler than being like, hey, there's a villain right there. The end game is going to be fighting him. Like, I don't think we need that necessarily in every single video game.
But it makes a lot of the early game feel compassless. Like, it doesn't have a clear direction. Like, yes, there is at the end of the, like, I'm going here to pick up what's his nuts' sister. You know what I mean? Like, there is that clear
slice of life.
There is that aspect to it, right? Like, you have that clear objective, but there does, and you have this sort of like overall nebulous threat, right? Like of the political threat of the empire, but it's not made clear within the first 20 fucking hours of the game who you're actually going to be like directing your hatred at. Like, imagine if it took till disc fucking 3 to be introduced to Sephiroth, right? Like,
no, better yet.
No, but you're introduced to Arden at the very beginning, so that's not the issue.
I see where Nate. I see where Nate's coming from, right? And I don't necessarily think that you have to know early on, like, who the villain is and who you should be hating. However, a good storyteller uses those things to a certain degree, right? You should know how to feel about Arden at any one point. I didn't actually realize he was the villain up until now, because this vibe that he gave off was like Uncle Buck, the crazy uncle that every time I saw him, I was just like, are you fucking serious?
Well,
you are so annoying. Get out of here. Well, and that's, I don't think in any way what you want your
no, exactly.
eliciting.
Well, the beginning of the game wants you to think the Empire is the end-all be-all enemy. That's the point. But the thing is, where it faltered there is that we only ever saw Noctis's point of view. He wasn't in the Empire, so a lot of big shit would go down, and you would hear about character deaths on the radio. You know, so it wasn't.
Oh my God,
what?
I'm not kidding.
Oh my God!
How is this a good story?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So exactly, the story is good. The telling isn't. There's a lot where they thought, okay, if the player is Noctis, the player should only know what Noctis knows, and I think that really was a hindrance in the overall story, because the story itself was really, really good, and I feel like if they had just told it differently, this game would be so much more of a hit than it was.
If they had told it from a more comprehensive view and not just from Noctis.
Yes. But for whatever reason, they made that decision, and I don't know why.
And really, one of the things they could have done that would have been so beneficial to Final Fantasy 15 is if they had made like all your side questing, if it had like a tangible, visible like effect on the places you were side questing for, you wouldn't feel so garbage doing it. Like when I leave a town after having done 30 side quests there, and it's exactly the same as when I showed up there for the first time.
Right.
It really makes me feel like I wasted my time. But if I had, think about like I don't want to compare it to FF14, but I will. Think about like when we finally finish getting Idleshire or something like that, like this town rebuilt from what it was.
Right.
Then you feel like you've had a tangible effect on the place.
Well, someone brought up earlier, I think it was Skuro actually, brought up Mass Effect Andromeda, which also had a slew of side quests, but by doing the side quests, it benefited you in some way, and also...
Let's not go that far. Every single quest was like identical. There was like...
Doesn't matter. It's
3 or 4 different varieties of side quests. It was so boring.
Completing a quest still benefited by giving more stability.
Right, but you didn't have to complete every quest to get the stability. You could get it after half the quest, and then why bother with the rest of them?
It still did something. Or had lore implications.
But actually there are quite a few side quests in 15 that have lore implications. There's just also quite a few that don't. But
I must have missed all of those then.
You must have.
Which is weird considering I did every side quest.
There are a lot of side quests that tell you like how the people are living under the Empire's rule, or tell you how scared they are about things that are happening. Like you learn a lot about the people and the way that they live.
The giant icon thing that's lifting up or holding up a meteor. Awesome. I'm glad I know why the Chocobo Carnival is in town.
By the way, if you'd like to give us a call and share your thoughts on Final Fantasy 15, then send a Skype message over to Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. I've seen somebody tried to call a couple of times. Sorry, I missed that. It may have been during our outage where I was like panicking on what the fuck am I supposed to do. But yeah, no, I think that Final Fantasy 15, I don't know, maybe not just 15, but I think Square Enix has a problem in general with villains. I think that for a company that used to make some of the best villains, i.e. Kefka or Sephiroth, I mean, those are two of the ones that just jump right out at you.
Seymour.
Seymour was hateable. He was hateable.
Arden is very hateable.
But I feel like
you guys didn't get far enough.
Square Enix does not do a very good job, and we can roll Final Fantasy 14 in with this too, because Stormblood is a perfect example of this.
Yep.
That Square Enix really struggles with being able to make a convincing villain that, you know, and again, I don't think that a villain has to be a caricature of a villain or have to be all bad. I think that you can have a villain that
Arden was very slighted in his past, and he has a very good reason for feeling the way that he feels. And I think that he himself is a good villain.
I mean, I guess it just maybe I don't know, but I can.
Arden was okay. I got to the end. I thought he was fine.
He had a very sad backstory, and he was. I mean, I don't want to spoil for the people in this room that haven't finished.
Who cares?
They're never going
Nobody
to.
cares.
No one's playing.
I mean, he was the beginning of the Lucius Calum line, who was completely fucked over by the crystal for trying to save his people. So I feel like that in that sense, he has every right to want this bloodline to end, want the crystal to end. It makes sense. I would probably feel the exact same way. and the way that he had this twisted relationship with the whole bloodline, it made a lot of sense. And I thought he was very complex compared to someone like Kefka, who's just evil for being evil. And I think that gave good character development. Again, the pacing of the story was weird, and I think that's where it suffered, not because the villain itself was a bad villain.
So here's my question, right? If this game is so flawed, if only 60% of the people even finished it, how are we getting like Switch ports? How are we getting chibi-ized mobile
I don't know. I don't know why we're getting a chibi version.
Enix was like, you know what? Only a little over half of our players have even finished it. And someone's like, you know what would help? Chibi-ize them and put it on mobile. They'll eat it up. Like, what?
Because look at World of Final Fantasy and shit like that. Put anything on mobile.
Whoa. Did you play anything? No, Nika, did you play even a little bit of World of Final Fantasy?
No, I'm just saying.
It has its own story.
Make something cute and put it on mobile and people will play it.
Shut the fuck up, Nika.
No. I'm done.
World of Final Fantasy has a better story any day of the week and better gameplay than Final Fantasy the 15.
Okay, the gameplay in the 15 is actually where it didn't suffer, I would say, in terms of like the battle system.
Oh my god, I can't disagree with that more.
The battle system was so much fun.
I hated the battle system for 15.
It was terrible.
It was awful.
God, I loved it.
It was awful.
I thought the battle system was the best part of the game.
Final Fantasy 15's battle system is the only game that I could not actually play through. And I played Final Fantasy 13. And I played Final Fantasy 12.
13's battle system was horrendous. 13's
and it was
made
better
me
than 15.
Scream. 15's was so much fun. I never stopped smiling the entire time I was battling ever in that game. So much
battle
fun.
system for retards.
So much fun.
I mean,
I loved it.
Part of I think part of the big appeal for Final Fantasy games, at least for me, for a long time, is being able to use and control a wide variety of characters that have a wide variety of moves and abilities. This was Control Noctis. And hey, you can assign maybe a combo of different magics to a button. Have fun. Like the actual combat system in FF15 was, and I'm going to side with Chris, the most disappointed I've ever been in a Final Fantasy battle system.
Strongly disagree.
I'll go back to what I said when we watched the trailer of the battle system, and I think most of you actually disagree with me at the time, is I thought it looked like a fun battle system that didn't look Final Fantasy to me, and people were like,
I was on board with that too. I agreed with you.
Kingdom Hearts like.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the battle system, but Nate, to your point, yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm playing a Final Fantasy game. It feels like I'm playing any modern video game.
Again, FF13 didn't feel like I was playing Final Fantasy either.
More than it did of FF15, though.
But I mean, like,
I totally disagree.
13 at least has classes in it.
Yeah, 13 did keep up.
13 had what? Made up classes that were never in any other game. Like,
they come on. They had their roots in the Final Fantasy jobs, and you know it.
What's Final Fantasy 15's classes?
And not only that, but it started establishing the trinity that ended up moving into Final Fantasy 14. So
good.
So
not giving any props for that.
So that's I think that is definitely notable and ties it stronger back into the roots. I don't know what of this battle system is connected to the original Final Fantasy games or any of the other games that preceded it, other than some of the spells are named the same thing.
Exactly. If you were to take FF15 and call it something completely different and just give it out to the masses, I don't think anyone's going to look at it and be like, you know what? This is kind of like a Final Fantasy.
I disagree. I absolutely would say that.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that.
Because you go, Titan and Firaga, those were Final Fantasy things.
No, I don't think so. The feel of the worlds and the characters to me felt like Final Fantasy.
Literally none of the characters outside of some of the vague abilities that they had any kind of, tie into any of the jobs or the different, wow. Sorry. Holy shit. Any of the Final Fantasy jobs, any of the games that, had really preceded it. And that's, I think, one of the things, like, even though, what was the name for basically Black Mage in FF13? It was...
All I remember is Ravager, because that's the only job I could ever be to break a boss.
Was that Ravager? I don't remember.
I think Ravager used
Ravager,
magic.
yeah.
But the thing is that everyone kind of knew, like, this operates as kind of like a Black Mage would, right? Like, there was still that connection to the series. FF15, specifically in the combat department, had none of that outside of the weapon types that you couldn't change, and some of the abilities that your
Noctis,
characters
you could change all of his weapons types.
Noctis was the only one, but I don't give a fuck about Noctis. I get that Noctis is supposed to be kind of like the vessel for the player, but part of the appeal.
He's also the chosen king and has the royal bloodline,
part of
which
the
allows
appeal.
him to use the different
fuck
weapons
off!
and stuff.
I don't give a shit.
The
But
other
if I only had,
are just
if I could have only played Terra in Final Fantasy VI, I would not have liked Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
Period. If you just gave me the option to just kind of vaguely direct Setzer, vaguely direct, like if you could, if you had to suggest that Sabin maybe suplex the fucking train, I would not have liked
So
6.
again, you're just saying turn-based best game is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying
because you can't direct people in a game like that unless it's complete ATB turn-based.
I'm saying that Square Enix did not find a satisfactory bridge between those two things. Even Final Fantasy XII, with its Gambit system, did a more satisfactory job of this. Period.
Weird and broken to me. I like 12 as a game, but I didn't
really people are just going back and playing the Zodiac Age again now and remembering how fun the fucking battle system is.
They changed it though. They have job systems in it now.
Yes, they changed it. Of course, they fucking changed it.
They should not have done that.
They should have had it in the first fucking place. They should have had it in the original release.
Because it's okay to not make every game a carbon copy of the game before it, and I don't understand why.
Then don't make a Final. Then don't make it a Final fucking Fantasy game.
But every Final Fantasy game they do this. They say, "Oh, FF7's not FF6, I hate it." Oh, and then FF8 comes out. Oh, FF8's not FF7, I hate it. Oh, then FF9 comes out. Oh, but it's not FF8, so I hate it. They do that every fucking time a new Final Fantasy comes out. The next one comes out, and they're gonna be, "Oh, it's not FF15, so I hate it." Like,
really?
Every game is a different game.
So Nika, you by that logic, now that Final Fantasy 15 is out, people must be looking back with rose-colored glasses on Final Fantasy 13. Is that what you're saying?
You guys are, because you think that was better.
No, don't misunderstand what we're saying.
13 is a piece of trash,
and it's still better than 15.
It's
I agree with the fact that it was a piece of trash, but it was still better.
Nothing about 13
and
was
more,
better than 15.
It was
not
still
the
better.
Fucking one-dimensional characters, not the horrible battle system where you only play one job. No, because this is an opinion I will never back down from.
It was still better than Final Fantasy 15. At its core, it was more of a Final Fantasy game than Final Fantasy 15.
FF13 had nothing from previous Final Fantasy games. It didn't have towns. It didn't have chocobo. It had nothing. It had
chocobos.
Okay, maybe it had chocobos, but it didn't have like all of its systems, the battle system, the weapon upgrade, all of it was bullshit, and it mattered not at all to the Final Fantasy series. That is a game that you could have stuck some stupid name like Last Remnant, Last Remnant, yeah, and they'd be like, okay, and they would say that that's another IP of Square Enix and it's its own thing, and it would never have felt like a Final Fantasy 2.
That's how I feel.
15,
that's how I feel about 15. You could have literally put any other IP on this other than Final Fantasy, because I feel like they just crapped the Final Fantasy brand on it and just kind of, here you go, here's your Final Fantasy turd that comes out once every 7 years.
That's how 13 felt. 13.
That is also how 13 felt.
Yes.
And I'm still saying that 13 did a better job than 15 comparatively. The amount that this series has fallen since 12, and the amount that the Zodiac Age really just accentuates that fact, is embarrassing. Square Enix should be embarrassed at this point of the games that they've put out in the last 10 years, especially any game with the name Final Fantasy on it. Because I don't understand how a fucking game like Bravely Default at its core feels more Final Fantasy than any Final Fantasy game that you've put out in the last 10 years.
FF5 style battle system, job system, and turn-based. That's why people are like, oh, it's like the childhood Final Fantasy.
So call that Brave Exvius and fucking, make new IPs out of this shit. Make new IPs out of the shit that you're calling Final Fantasy. Because outside of my characters having anime hair, I can't figure out what the fuck this has to do with any of the games that came before it.
None of the other Final Fantasies have ever had anything to do with the other game. They're all separate games.
No, but I mean they've had
still have a
jobs
legacy to them.
They shared jobs, they shared abilities, the way that abilities functioned, if not just the names. They've shared magic. They shared core concepts, Nika. This is deviated from the core concept of Final Fantasy so much that I cannot in good conscience even call it a Final Fantasy game.
Again, what I was saying is that people thought that way about the materia system, then they thought that way about the junction system. FF9 got more praise because it went back to the mastering abilities like the earlier Final Fantasy.
That is bullshit. That is bullshit. Don't come on this fucking program and lie to people.
I'm not
Nobody thought that. Nobody thought that. No. The most complaints...
Nobody thought Final Fantasy VII was bad in any way when it came out, and they still don't today.
The fucking... Yeah, the materia... the materia system was as fucking core to Final Fantasy as you could get. Junctioning people complained about, but they didn't say, oh, this doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. For all the drawbacks
no. I had to deal with people telling me that bullshit every time I said I liked Final Fantasy VIII for like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely said that. They said drawing is horseshit, not Final Fantasy, and they said junctioning is horseshit.
FF8 got a lot of that because FF7 was so popular and was so well received that FF8 was like, but this isn't FF7. Why is this a Final Fantasy game? It suffered from that so much. And then when FF9 came out, it got praised for its like mastering of its battle system and stuff, but the animation and things just really turned people off. They're like, this doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. Look at FF7, look at FF8, look at the graphics.
No,
of
it got
FF8.
praised. It got praised for its graphics, and it got thrown over the fire for the mechanics. That's what people were pissed about. They didn't like the junctioning system because they felt it was too fucking cumbersome to the game. It made you play the game for hours longer than you otherwise would.
Yeah,
and it's a valid complaint of the system. But I don't feel like and Callie, maybe because you're a bigger fan of it, you remember these conversations more than I do, but I do not remember a lot of people going, this doesn't feel like a core Final Fantasy game.
I do.
I simply do not remember that. Maybe they did. Maybe that's true because, and I'll lend it some validity because of the way that they took Final Fantasy IX's direction to go, oh, well, this is a throwback game. Like, we're going back to our roots. And that's how they marketed it, too. So you might be right. You might be right.
Shit for its graphics, though, too. They're like, wait, but look at FF8's graphics. That had great graphics. Look at FF9. It's so cutesy.
Graphics. The art style.
Right.
Art style,
yes.
Yeah.
And again, and yes, it did get criticized for its art style, but again, this was not a game that people and I because I clearly remember all of FF9's development and release. This was not a game that people said does not feel like a fucking Final Fantasy game. Do not even tell me that. They were mad about Quina. They were mad. There were so many things that they were fucking mad about. And Kuja being one of them. Like, people were still in that weird like androgyny. Like, I'm scared of androgyny thing. Like that. So right, like Kuja was weird at the time.
I hated FF9 when it first
came
out.
That's what I was going to say. What I remember is that when FF9 first came out, a ton of people didn't like it. And then when they replayed it again, when they got older, they realized what a gem it was.
Okay. Nobody has done that with 13.
No one.
Nobody's going to do that with 15.
No one. Zero people.
Yeah.
I will hold to that. Absolutely. Because and again, I'm not saying that 13, after revisiting it after time, it's somehow a better game. I'm just saying that
it's not.
In comparison to 15, it feels more like a core Final Fantasy game.
But it doesn't.
It does. But it does.
I
mean,
think,
it does.
I think they both fail no less than equally on that front. Like, neither of them feel remotely like a Final Fantasy game.
But there are things in 13 that you can trace back to where they came from. They've been perverted and messed up. And while all of the jobs may be fake jobs, you can say, oh, Ravager's supposed to be the Black Mage. Oh, Sentinel's supposed to be the tank. That's what he means. There are concepts that you can see they took them from Final Fantasy and mangled them
So you're
up,
going to praise
but
that, though?
No, Nika, that is not
okay, because remember when
it is not
1.014 came out and they're like, why are they calling Paladin Gladiator? This is stupid. This isn't Final Fantasy.
No, we're not praising it. We're just saying, and this isn't praise, we're saying that 13 has a bit more roots in the Final Fantasy legacy on paper than what 15 does. That is not a praise.
Maybe on paper, but not in its feel or execution.
And not only that, like a lot of that early criticism for FF14 and the way that they were labeling their jobs, right? Like that had a lot more to do with the fact that they were releasing an MMO and they needed to try to appeal to as many people as possible. How many people are you going to get in the door playing a Lancer versus playing a Dragoon? Like all of us knew that at the time. Like
we all played Legend of Dragoon, so everybody loved that game, and nobody had context for it before that. No, so
okay, I don't know where that logic jump came from, but
the names of the jobs don't matter if the game is fun.
I think for Final Fantasy, that they do matter, and that in a setting, in a context like an MMO, they matter quite a bit more because now you've got attachment and identity to the avatar that you're making, and you have attachment to the jobs that you've had or had attachment to for years already.
And FF14 is a hard sell too, because remember, this was not a sequel to FF11, which it wasn't, but it's still a carbon copy of all the same art assets.
Right. And not just that, but I mean, they really wanted to try to go out of their way to prove that it wasn't Final Fantasy 11 too. Yeah. And I think that had a lot of was driving a lot of the decisions that were going on behind the scenes then. But like just kind of bringing this back to Final Fantasy 15, I don't think it deviated as much as Final Fantasy 15 because Final Fantasy 15 brought in way more elements of things like Kingdom Hearts than it did even core Final Fantasy stuff.
Like the Kingdom Hearts, people always say has a Final Fantasy feel to it. So then if you say that a Final Fantasy game
has Final Fantasy,
no, but I'm talking about in the terms of its assets and stuff too. Like in its spells and all that kind of stuff. Like it has Aga spells. Like it's very Final Fantasy-esque. So then for you to say a Final Fantasy game borrows from Kingdom Hearts, which borrowed from Final Fantasy, that's just a circle at that point.
You know what? This is just proof. This is proof that incest is bad. You can't have inbreeding in your game franchises.
No, but
we're gonna get like Final Fantasy 15 is the Mad King.
All you're talking about, Nika, is the way that tiers of magic are referred to in the game. That's it. If that's the only carryover that you have from your Final Fantasy franchise, that's not much of a carryover.
But the thing is that the towns and the exploration and the monsters, like everything, like had a Final Fantasy feel.
Okay,
to it.
That's not necessarily Final Fantasy. That's just the JRPG, though.
But
I think it was more of a Square Enix feel, I suppose.
But playing through it, Nika, felt like playing through a Kingdom Hearts game. That's what it felt like. It felt like, at its core, that you took a Final Fantasy world and you put Kingdom Hearts combat in the middle of it. Yeah, come on. It's all down to one button for magic. You can assign one piece of magic. The rest is fucking, action combat oriented.
Different weapon combos that you could do with different weapons if you changed them up, which you probably didn't, which is why you think it was boring.
Of course I did. Nika, do you think that that I tried playing Final Fantasy 15 without whipping out the goddamn greatsword? Are you stupid? Do you know me? Have you ever met me? Okay, I absolutely switched between weapons, and you know as well as I do that there are certain points that require a specific weapon. I wouldn't have been able to complete as far as I have in the game if I had only used the greatsword. And if you left the choice up to me,
but I mean,
I would have chose the greatsword.
In the middle of combos, you could change your weapon.
Of course.
Okay.
I'm not
Some
stupid.
people didn't realize that, so I'm just making sure.
I'm not stupid.
A lot
of people are stupid.
That.
A lot of people are stupid. By the way, if you want to call in, Final Encounter Cast on Skype, 810-207-1764. We'd love to hear from you if you'd like to sound off on your opinions on Final Fantasy 15. Because, I think that, again, the 40% of players that have not completed it, I think that it's clearly not the battle system that drove them away, right? No. Like it's got to be something a little bit more deep and probably meaningful. The biggest thing
I blame is the pacing. That's my biggest issue with it.
I actually enjoyed the combat system, but I do agree with everything that Nate says that it wasn't FF related. But no, I think it definitely comes down to the way the game was paced. And the way that it was, shoehorned in, like you have to be in Noctis's perspective. And here's the thing, they actually could have done that and still delivered a great story. But the fact that you had to like infer things from the radio,
you could miss stuff from radio.
That's ridiculous.
I think that a lot of players got just genuinely frustrated with this, this middle part that meanders into nowhere. And just the goals are not clearly defined. You're just picking up people on a road trip. Like it takes a while for that story to even get going enough to want to feel interested in it. Outside of like, oh, it's the Empire, they're invading. Meh. Like the Empire, the threat of the Empire was never established well enough to carry the first half of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I know there was a lot of people who were concerned about the game feeling, too linear. Like, could they actually deliver on the idea of a open world? But they tried to get they were so into the idea of just and go and you could have everything that it did feel really disjointed. Like
it really did.
I think about like Grand Theft Auto, which is open world for the most part, but even then, you start off on a section of the map and you have to go through a certain amount of quests before the next section of the map opens up and something lore-wise takes you to that next section.
Ugh, yes, that was annoying too.
Well, and
that's what I'm wanting 15 to have.
Yeah, 15 didn't do that. 15 only had the one like northern part of the map that was blocked off for a little while. The rest of the map, you had access to like every side quest from the word go.
I definitely remember as I'm doing side quests being like, all right, I'm going to do this one. Oh, I can't because there's a little red X in my way. What about this one? Oh, there's a little red X in my way. So
I only ran into that once.
Oh, I ran into it tons of times. So it didn't truly feel open world to me. It was this idea of we have an open world, but we still have to curate how far you guys can go.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't have much problem with that. I was able to...
I only noticed that northern area was closed off for a little bit, but other than that, like every side quest chain that was in the rest of the world was available from chapter 2 or something. And I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because for those of us who like to do every side quest and then move on to the next chapter,
That's what I did.
I actually did not like 80% of the side quests in the first 3 chapters of the game, and then the rest of the game I just went MSQ, game's done, and I'm like, whoa, the pacing was off on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like getting from chapter like 3 to chapter 5 is like 60 hours.
It took me like a week to get from one chapter to the next, and then once I hit like chapter 7, I did the rest of the game in like 2 days.
Yeah, I did it that evening. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it feels really. It's like when you finally get to like disc 4 in Final Fantasy 8. Like you go through a lot of stuff and you're like, all right, and this is the point of no return, and now I'm like 5 hours from the end of the game.
And like it had a lot of issues with like I was saying earlier, trying to be the master of everything but failed at everything. Like having stealth randomly thrown in one chapter or 2 chapters, it didn't make any sense.
No.
Having like I didn't hate the stealth in it, but the thing is why throw it in one chapter? It was really jarring. Then also the decision thing bothers me the most, where they'll be like, okay, you're a king, you're gonna deliberate with Hillary Clinton, and you're gonna figure out how to make this shit happen.
Hashtag okay? I'm with her.
That's exactly what it was. She looked exactly like her. I called her Hillary Clinton the entire game. And it's like, okay, and it even points out, it's like, you would need to negotiate just like a king would to make sure that you do this right. And no matter what you do, is just you get more or less AP. Like the story doesn't change. And I feel like if you had fucked up the deliberation, you should have less assets and more of a chance of dying in the next part of the game. But they didn't make those decisions affect anything. Like at the beginning when you can go on that date with Iris or whatever, you can like totally be a dick to her or be nice to her, and nothing changes even in the dialogue really, other than just how much AP you get at the end.
I mean,
so I just
granted,
they had the idea and just didn't understand how to execute it. I think they had people from all these other games play all these other games and be like, well, stealth worked in Metal Gear, open world worked in The Witcher, and decision making worked in Dragon Age. So let's put them all together and make a game. And
am I fucking
played more Final Fantasy games and played that
right?
Logic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But am I fucking crazy, or was that not exactly what I said I was worried about when we were, in the run up to releasing FF15?
Dude, I go back to like what I said back then. If you can't stick to genre, even it's time to like get a new franchise going.
I agree.
Like when you have to look at Final Fantasy 15 as it is and say this is our next Final Fantasy game. Like I think you guys are pretty safe to go ahead and start a new franchise.
Yeah,
but why start a new franchise when you can just start a new franchise but still call it the same franchise?
See, that's the thing is that putting Final Fantasy on the box means that you're going to sell oodles of copies.
I mean, you're not wrong with that. Like.
I mean, you might be wrong after 15, though.
Well, let's
know.
Yeah, that's is that it won't stay that way. I mean,
I disagree there too, because I feel like the general consensus after people beating 13, the general like happiness with the game was much lower than with 15. Like
people are fucking sheep. If 13, 13-2, 13-3, and 15 didn't knock them away, nothing will.
No.
Yeah.
See, I think that 15 was the final straw, because I can tell you.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not buying Final Fantasy 16 unless the general consensus is that it's good.
Don't
You have higher standards.
But
Robbie,
I can tell
I
you
do
from
not.
How many?
Robbie, I do not accept that statement until the first trailers for Final Fantasy 16 come out. Then we'll see what your
maybe
what your
because
tune is.
nothing that came out of 15 I looked at it and was like, oh my god, I have to do that. Like 15 was all very like
I mean, that's fair. I'm just saying, like,
straw.
it's easy to that's an easy statement to have. That's an easy opinion to have when we've seen nothing of Final Fantasy 16, right?
That's also fair.
Well, maybe they'd have to really go back to the roots, though.
I'm telling you, people are fucking sheep. It'll sell.
I think it will too, because I'm telling you, after 13 came out, I spent so long reading articles, looking through social media, just seeing the general like feel of the game, and everyone complained how it didn't feel like Final Fantasy. It's way too linear. There's no exploration. There's nothing. There's not even the victory battle thing. Like all of this, like this doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy. The morale of people after playing that game was like, I never want to play Final Fantasy again. And then 15 comes out, and while there are a lot of people that criticize it, the overall feel is, oh my gosh, this was so much fun. Like, I just feel more of that.
They went in the complete opposite direction of 13, but now where do they go?
And I think
that's a good question.
I actually think that FF13 turned off enough of their critical fan base that those people who would look at something like this and go, well, that's fucking stupid, like, or this didn't make sense, or would have any other reaction other than fanboy squeeze of glee and pants jizzing, that like you won't have that. Like you won't have that critical discussion of people going, well, I thought this was paced poorly, or I thought this was bad, because
I have discussions with people all the time.
Fucking I don't know where, because anywhere
conventions.
Anywhere that I see conversations happen like that, like on a Facebook group or something like that, some fucking mod comes in and squashes the conversation and says, quit hating on the game. And it's like, no, like there's
people hate on the game.
If people didn't like the game, that's not a reason to remove a post or ban them from a fucking Facebook group. Let them have their fucking opinion.
Language. It's
Wait,
bad.
This is
Did
why.
you ask someone if they were retarded, Nate?
No, that was a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I think, and this, I do it at anime conventions. There's no mods to shut you down. And even like, I mean, I cosplay Prompto. I'm in the Final Fantasy 15 like communities of cosplays. And even within that group, there's a lot of like fangirling and like silly things going on. But underneath, when you sit down and talk to someone, they're like, yeah, the game had these issues, but I really care about this character. And that's why I cosplay them. Like there are legitimate discussions that happen at conventions that I can say, like, I can really get a feel for the way that people feel about the characters and about the game overall. But then still, even despite its criticisms, had much more fun with it than FF13.
I mean, anecdotally, I guess I will accept that.
And from as many articles as I could find, like you can look up how articles that came out online right after 13 came out and right after 15 came out, and the feel of them and just the excitement is night and day. 13 was trash and linear, and 15 was a brush of breath.
Well, I mean, look, if we're not comparing the games on the basis of whether or not they felt like a Final Fantasy game, 15 is a better game.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, like let's get that straight. I'm not saying that 13 was a better game. I'm saying that 13 at its core, when you played it, felt like you were playing a bad Final Fantasy game.
I don't know.
Right?
I didn't think so at all.
15 felt like a good game, but not a Final Fantasy.
Yes, exactly. It felt like a passingly good Square Enix title. Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't fucking get into 15 at all, because it didn't feel like a Final Fantasy game at all.
Nier Automata, that was a good game.
That's a great game.
I'd put
totally.
I'd put Nier right where I would put probably FF15.
What? What do you mean? In terms of,
I actually think I like
Nier is like Nier Automata is one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah, I like 15 more than Nier.
What? You just don't have a good taste in game. What the fuck? I have never heard anyone say that they didn't really care for Nier very much. You're the first person.
I also hated whatever number 9 or that stupid little anime boy was.
9S?
Yeah.
Can we like mute him? He has no taste in video games, proven now after this conversation.
Well, it's okay, because we've actually gone about 15 minutes overtime here. So it's time to wrap up Final Encountercast for today. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate having you along. It's been a fun time. And I don't know if anyone can hear the boats going on behind me, but they're kicking up quite a lot of noise. But yeah, it's been fun. This has been a good discussion. And sorry that we missed our one caller that we had. I do apologize for that. So anyway, finalencountercast.com to check out full archives of the show. Subscribe to the podcast. Obviously, hit that follow button. Join us on Sundays starting at 1 p.m. here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio for Final Encountercast. For my crew, Robbie, Chris, Callie, and Nika, I'm Nate. We'll see you next time. Final Encountercast is a production of finalencountercast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Nate Bender, Callie Sloan, and Kooky Persona. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content. Thank you guys so much for joining us for episode number 77 of Limit Break Radio, or Final Encountercast. That's the show that we just got done. Stay tuned. Limit Break Radio is coming up next at 4 p.m. We're going to be talking about job changes between Heavensward and Stormblood. And of course, since I just got through the MSQ, I'm still a lowly little scrub that I'm going to need to rely on you guys, the callers, to let me know what you think of the way that your jobs have changed in between Heavensward and Stormblood. So stay tuned and make sure to line up your calls. Coming up next here on Limit Break Radio.
You're listening to Limit Break Radio Live.
My brain can't believe what my ears have just told them.
Limit Break Radio.